Against the backdrop of Israel's unrelenting war, the International Court of Justice is now on its third day of proceedings, examining the impact of Israel's decades-long occupation of Palestinian lands. 52 countries are providing legal testimony. The U.S. has presented its case today, urging the court not to order Israel's immediate withdrawal from occupied Palestinian territories without any security guarantees.
It would not, as some participants suggest, be conducive to achievement of the established framework to issue an opinion that calls for a unilateral, immediate, and unconditional withdrawal by Israel that does not account for Israel's legitimate security needs. International law does not provide for an occupation itself to be rendered unlawful or void, based either on its duration or on any violations of occupation law. The court should not find that Israel is legally obligated to immediately and unconditionally withdraw from occupied territory. The court can address the questions before it within the established framework based on the Land for Peace principle and within the parameters of established principles of occupation law.
In the last hour or so, Russia gave its testimony, calling on Israel to immediately halt its violations of international law. It told the UN's top court that negotiations for a viable two-state solution must be expedited.
A negotiated two-state solution with an independent, viable and contiguous Palestinian state peacefully coexisting with Israel will be the best recipe for bringing an end to Israel's violations, creating guarantees of their non-repetition and redressing the damage. The advantage of the peace process is an idea of direct negotiations between Israel and Palestine. They are to reach an agreement on the basis of their free will. In Russia's opinion, that significantly strengthens the chances that an agreement will actually be achieved, will indeed satisfy the interests of both parties, and will be implemented in practice. The Russian Federation invites the court to be guided by the need to contribute to creating conditions for successful final status negotiations. The best contribution would be a confirmation by the court that Israel and Palestine are under an obligation to resume such negotiations, while all states and international organizations shall cooperate in order to make that possible.
Let's go to our correspondent Bernard Smith, who is outside the International Court of Justice in The Hague. And Bernard, we heard from various speakers today, including Russia and the US. The US taking a rather different approach. They don't believe the court should be ruling on this. Talk us through what they had to say.
Yeah, the US is one of the outliers, really. Pretty much every other country that's giving oral testimony to the World Court over this week is saying that Israel's occupation should be declared illegal by the World Court. The US is saying, well, it's a one-sided question that's being put to the court, and so the court shouldn't be ruling on it. And the court, in putting this question, which is being put by the UN General Assembly, it is failing to consider or take into account Israel's security guarantees. The US says we've been reminded of Israel's security needs after October the 7th, but the US says regrettably many of those people speaking here have ignored what Israel's security concerns are. So that is why the US says that really there's been plenty of UN Security Council resolutions already tabled confirming the commitment to a two-state solution between Israel and the Palestinians, and it should be left to the UN to continue that path, to carry along on that path.
And Bernard, did we hear from the Palestinian delegation today? Did they react to anything that was said in court?
Well, the Palestinian Foreign Minister Riyad Maliki spoke after the US had given its testimony, and they're very frustrated, really, the Palestinians, because they said, look, we've been trying for decades to achieve a Palestinian state alongside Israel. We've been trying to do that through various official bodies, including the UN, and it's got us nowhere. That is why We are coming here to the World Court because this is sort of a last chance for us to get an organisation to recognise that our land is occupied and that Israel should leave the occupied territories of the West Bank and East Jerusalem and Gaza. And Maliki also said that we've confronted US hegemony and the US veto over Palestinian affairs for decades. We've had enough. It's why we're coming here.
OK, thank you for wrapping that up for us. Bernard Smith outside the International Court of Justice in The Hague.